Should you go all in? That is the question that a lot of people ask and they wonder about. And to be honest, I'm gonna tell my story and how I felt like I didn't want to go all in when I was at the NFL with freelance because I was pretty nervous at the time, didn't really have the connections. And when I got the job at the NFL, I had just graduated college. It was my first job out of college, and it was a 10-month contract. And the idea of working 40, 50, maybe 60 hours a week for a corporate company, being creative, really didn't feel great and sit well with me, but I knew that it would be really good for my career. So when I moved to LA in 2019 and I got my own apartment, actually was with 2 random roommates. It was the first time just throwing myself in a new city, random roommates, and didn't really know what to expect other than I knew that I was commuting 20, 30 minutes every morning to the NFL office to work as an editor, producer, whatever you want to call it. I was an editor. I was making a lot of videos. And I knew from pretty the first month, I knew I didn't really want to do this forever. Like as fast as I could get out of it. But I knew I had a 10-month contract. I do have some notes over here if I look to the left. So I knew that I wanted to build my own thing. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I had some skill sets that would be good to work with, especially in LA, a lot of film, freelance, media, videos, drones, needs. So I knew I had to figure out in the 10 months I was at the NFL how I could go all in on my own thing. And there's this like saying or thing you see on the internet where it's like, don't quit your day job until you have secured like 2 or 3x your living expenses from freelancing or a side hustle. And at the time I wrote this huge list, what all my living expenses were, how much money I needed every month, how much money was going to taxes, to figure out, okay, if I left the NFL, which I was making $29 an hour, and then I think on overtime I'd make like whatever, 29 divided by 2, so 14.5 plus 29. So occasionally I'd make like $43 an hour if I worked overtime, and that would be maybe on NFL Sundays or a few extra hours a week. So my paycheck wasn't that much at the NFL for my cost of living, but I was getting something really good on my resume. That was the trade-off. So that was like the risk versus reward, which I view a lot of things through risk versus reward, or R&R. And I knew at the NFL what I was getting paid monthly, I could make from one client, potentially from one shoot, one video. Like let's say you go out and shoot for 2 days and do an edit, you could charge $5,000 for that. So I knew all I had to do was work on networking, meeting people and talking to people and figuring out how to get my foot in the door other places. But I didn't know COVID was gonna hit. So I had from NFL was August of 2019 until April of 2020, I was locked in with NFL. COVID hits, and that was when the Venice video blew up and I got a bunch of work. But when I was working for the NFL, I had a bunch of side hustle clients on the side. And it really it changed my perspective on like, if you're hustling and trying to get work, you can make way more than your 9 to 5, but you have to be willing to work. So this is what my schedule looked like. And I'm not kidding, you can go fact check this on Strava. I would wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and I'd run the beach from Venice Beach to the Santa Monica Pier, then back to Marina Del Rey. Beach run, jump in the ocean, come home, it was like 6:30, whatever, shower, eat. I would edit for my freelance gigs before the NFL. I'd commute to the NFL office, I'd work all day, I'd come home, I'd do a little bit more work, and then I'd go to bed. I did that, I think for like 6 or 7 months straight. I basically double dipped. So my entire focus was work, exercise, NFL, sleep, and it was a grind. Like I didn't have a social life. I barely went out. I wasn't drinking. I didn't drink the entire 2020 year. I actually didn't drink from December of 2019 until like April of 2021. I think it was like 15 months off of no drinking. I was locked in. All I cared about was figuring out how I could build something on my own without having to rely on someone else. And even freelancing, you're still relying on other people, but the more you freelance and the stronger your skill set gets, the more opportunity that's thrown at you. So that would be how I would say to go all in, is like you basically have to sacrifice a lot of things and make some like clear-cut habits. Like the only way I could function without, like for me, like I love exercise and like my brain is better with exercise. So I just locked in exercise as like before breakfast. That was the first thing I did. Wake up, roll out of bed, go on a run. And then edit, side hustle. Like all my side hustles would be like before I'd go to the NFL. And when I got to the NFL, there'd be days where like the clients would be asking for things and I would have to like go outside or like clock out at lunch and do work for an hour and then clock back in. And it really like helps you prioritize balance of like what matters, because if someone's already paid you $5,000 for 2 videos, you're gonna have to do that or you're not gonna have a good relationship with those people. And you want referrals. Like the best thing as a freelancer is to do well so people refer you more work. And also like having the NFL title is really easy to get more work. If I said, hey, I work for the NFL, like I'm down to shoot your event this weekend and help you do an event recap, almost always could lock it in. So if you have a job that you can flex the credibility of, I would 100% do that. And the one thing too is like, I think around 3 or 4 months into working for the NFL, I pulled the like mental health card. So I told my boss like, the NFL is hurting my mental health. Like I can't be working 60 hours a week. So I could get reduced 1 day to 4 days a week and have an extra day to freelance. And it was a strategic chess play because I knew all I had to do was just take that 1 extra day and max out freelance and I would make more money every month. And I was just putting all the money aside that I could. So I had runway. If like when the NFL contract ended, I knew like I wasn't going to go back to the NFL. My goal was like to be fully on my own, but to have the credibility of the NFL backing it. So I was planning like, okay, I need X amount of money aside. I knew my rent was like $1,600 or $1,700 a month. I knew my expenses for groceries, eating out, like gas, insurance. Like I was paying for everything. Never asked my parents for $1. If they did give me $1, I would have had paid them back. For me, like part of like growing up was like, I don't want to ever rely a single bit on my parents in any way. Like they're always going to be there if like something happens. Like they would never let me be homeless, but I just don't want to ask them for help. Should you go all in? I think it really depends on who you are as a person. Some people like to have stability. For me, like I don't mind without having like not having stability. Like I can figure it out. I kind of like the chaos and fire that turns on in my mind when I have to figure things out. And some people hate that. Like instability could be like what destroys your creativity or your focus or your ability to think, or could make you depressed. If you're the type of person who is okay with like the turbulence of the up and down, then you just have to figure out where your priorities are misaligned right now so you can focus more in on your career and craft, and you're gonna see yourself progress way quicker. Like what happened in let's call it the year and a half I lived in LA was one of the biggest and most propelling years of my life, because I eliminated everything that didn't matter and really didn't have a social life and didn't hang out with people. And it was during COVID. Like I saw my roommates, saw a couple other buddies that were in Los Angeles, and for the most part, like I locked in. And that would be like, if I think back to like one of the most impactful times in my life, it was when I pretty much eliminated everything that didn't matter, because I was trying to figure out on my own how to get to the next level. And I kind of got lucky one day. Like the Venice skate park video that went super viral, it was licensed. It made me like the most amount of money from a video at the time from licensing, and it opened up a lot of opportunities. That was just pure luck of the draw, like being right place, right time, breaking a news story, one of one, only person. But that happened to also be like my NFL contract ended, and 7 days later, I made the biggest piece of my life that went viral. So it's like these weird things in life, like just from like working and putting yourself in lucky positions by like just doing something. I think like luck comes from when you actually, like, the more you make something you put into the world, I think the luckier you can get, because you're just increasing your lottery tickets. And I view social media like a lottery ticket. So I fully like believe that like if you want to figure out how to get to the next level, you're gonna have to like eliminate some things that are distracting you. You're gonna have to change up your habits and routines. Like I hate waking up at 5 a.m. I don't do that right now, but when I had to, because I had so much work and opportunity, it was like, okay, let's do it. Like go to bed at 9:30, wake up at 5, go on a run, exercise is done for the day, work all day, come home. Like you're in a machine, you're becoming a machine, but the machine you create is gonna shape your outcomes. I would never change a single thing. Like I can remember those days. I remember just sitting in my room, grinding for hours, editing. And I had some great clients in LA. I'd say great clients until COVID hit. COVID hit, and then a lot of my in-person clients were done, and I had to shift to a few other freelancing opportunities for online clients, ads, brands. I was doing some like minor documentary style editing. I was kind of all over the place, all over the place. Like I would say yes to everything that made sense. If I couldn't do it, I would find someone who could do it. I was doing Fiverr Arbitrage. Like someone needs a logo, go on Fiverr. or freelancer.com. And freelancer.com, you can do a logo contest for $100. You can submit. This is one of the best sites. This is free alpha. You go to freelancer.com, you sell a logo for $1,000 or $2,000. You go on there, you start a $100 contest, you write a brief, and you might get 500 logo options. The thing is you can just use those 500 as creative ideas to make a better one, or you can just start sharing the best with the client and let them have an option to choose from, and then you only pay the $100 to the one you pick. So for $100, you might get 500 entries from around the world, and then you just show your client 10 or 20 of the favorites. So like, that was how I figured out just like how to never say no to opportunity. And if you do that with the right clients, they're just gonna keep bringing you more work. And that was like one thing I really learned about, is like just leveraging the ability to arbitrage certain skill sets I didn't have. And you're just a middleman, but you're the creative guy who understands what looks good, what doesn't look good. You still need a creative eye for what I was doing, but it makes it easier where you can sell things that you can't produce, but someone else can. So should you go all in? I think you should go all in if you can. The one thing is like, if you have a salary right now, you actually have more time to work on things you want to do, but you actually have to want to do that. So it's really hard to go work for 8 hours a day and your energy's dead. And what I realized is like the best time to work is actually before work, but you have to redesign your whole life. So you have to go to bed earlier. You have to wake up at 5. You have to work before you get to work, because your brain is the best in the morning. And if you're one of those people who like comes home from like a 9 to 5, because I was just drained, and you just want to eat dinner and go to bed, or like do like no thinking type of tasks, that's when you really realize that like the only way you're gonna get the side hustle done is if you can wake up early, do the side hustle, go to work, come home, eat, go to bed, because eventually that's gonna pay off. And I watched it pay off. And that's the sacrifice I had to make, and like I wouldn't change it for the world now. That's all I got. I accidentally got addicted to Celsius. Pretty good. It can't be good for you, but I got an 800-meter race tonight trying to PR, so I like to caffeinate up for race days.